Hello, this is Julia Bushkova, and today I'm going to answer some of your questions. First, I will read the question, and then I will attempt to answer it. So, question number 1. I'm an amateur and in need of help with my left hand position. I'm very confused as to how high my knuckles should be, angle of the knuckles, position and height of the thumb, fingertip point of contact, just left hand posture in general. I'm certain this is one of the reasons my vibrato is suffering and would love any help. And here's the second question, which basically links to the first one. Please make a video about the contact point between the fingers and the fingerboard. Which part of my fingertip should exactly hit the string? Thank you. So, let's see. I would suggest that the first thing you do, you would free up your hand and turn it like this. So you're straight here, straight there. Then, with that hand, you insert violin into that hand, or you approach the violin neck like this. And you put yourself a little bit closer to second position rather than first. Right there. And then, not going too high up. So you don't want to have violin touch this knuckle. You want to be somewhere in between the base and the second one, on the index finger. So here we are, and then first finger goes slightly back, just like this, and make sure you leave the thumb where it is. So you put the first finger, second finger falls wherever it falls in your hand shape, and then third finger comes right here. Fourth finger, leave it out for now, because that's not for beginners. If you're not a beginner, then you know that eventually, of course, you will have to bring it over here, and for that you will have to turn this part of your hand slightly. Okay, but for now, let's not move the fourth. What you will notice then, you didn't move the thumb back. That's very important. So the thumb position should be where it grows. Everybody's thumb will be in their own place, but it should never ever be back here. And the thumb and the first finger should always have little space right there. So I have bigger space, somebody will have smaller space, but the space will be always there. You want to avoid this position at all costs. When you will be turning your hand to reach with the fourth finger, you will notice that yes, sometimes our thumb goes there to help us turn initially. Then after this, relax it. Let it come back to its place. So again, here, that's position of the left hand. When I touch where I touch exactly on the tip, not too close to the nail, but not, of course, so that fingers are completely flat. They shouldn't be completely flat like this. They are flatter than perpendicular to the floor, much flatter than that. So this is ideal shape, and I hope you can see it as demonstrated on violin as well. Yes, so that position will enable the vibrato when you are going back and forth and your knuckles can move. And in general, it provides a very secure environment for the left hand. So I hope that answers your question, and we will move to the next one. Next question reads, I would like to see a video explaining how to study efficiently. I'm an amateur violinist and don't have 5 or 6 hours for practicing because I have family, job, duties, and many things that allow me to practice only for 2 hours in the best case. I would like to know how to make the most of this with this time. How you prepare a piece? How much time should I dedicate to learn technique? How to be focused on the task and not to play violin in autopilot? Well, here, first of all, I need to say that there are very many questions here in this one. And I will try to break it in smaller pieces, groups, and answer those first. So, first of all, let's talk about 5 or 6 hours to practice. Professional violinists don't practice 5 or 6 hours. At least they don't when they become adults either. I don't think anybody does, because everybody has life and families and other things to do. However, there might be a time in your life when you might want to practice that much, but again, you won't do it in an amateur stage. When you talk about 2 hours, I think it is absolutely plenty to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. And if you don't, then probably, yes, as you mentioned in the question, maybe you go on autopilot too much. Maybe you repeat things at the same fashion without thinking in the breaks between the repeats. And perhaps there is such a thing in your mind that is learn technique versus learn a piece, when in fact you can learn a lot of technique on the piece. So, and here again, we go, the difference here would be whether you are really professional or not. If you're professional, you'll be practicing for many, many years. And therefore, yes, there will be time to do just specifically finger exercises, shifting exercises, bow exercises, and so forth. In your case, learn a piece, how to learn a piece. Again, I think I will probably have to answer it in a separate video, how to approach a piece. But in this case right now, let's see, if you go by still hours, let's say you have 2 hours in your disposal, then what I would recommend is to think very closely about your goals for today. For instance, you know you don't want to do some technique separately from the piece, let's say. So I will devote about maybe 20 minutes to it. And I would focus on the dexterity exercises. And that would be, for instance, some people like Shevchik, and some people prefer Shradik, or either one of them. I would take number 1 from Shradik, for instance, and do the exercises from little number 1s from number 1 through number 25, and the big number 1, you will see if you open this, his book on Dexterity, Volume 1. And starting from slower tempo and into faster tempo, gradually, of course, accelerating the tempo, taking goals, setting goals with a metronome, quarter note equal, let's say 50, then quarter note equal 60, 70, 80, and so forth, and giving yourself plenty of time to achieve higher speeds. That will really help your dexterity. And in fact, after number 1, I would suggest to go to other numbers up to number 6, I would say, for sure, in first position. Definitely you want to do shifting. Shevchik exercises for shifting are excellent. And there you can start with the first one, and then you don't necessarily have to do them in the order in which they're written, but look for the movements that you actually need to focus more. But again, I would not probably spend more than 20 to 30 minutes max on this, just the finger movements and shifting. Then you want to incorporate a scale. And if you are adventurous, I would suggest that you will go to 4-octave scales rather than sitting with 3-octave scales. If you have done already all 3-octave scales, if not, definitely need to do one after another, including minor scales. Give it another 15 minutes. Then you might want to go to your piece, for instance, if you only have an hour or something left. Go to the piece, you've sight read it, then you have to go through the hardest places of the piece. Don't go to the easy, nice melodies. And look for the challenges. Look what this particular thing does for you, what it challenges you with. And then work specifically on these challenging moments. Maybe you will find that your fingers are not coming off the fingerboard fast enough. That will be your articulation. Maybe there are some double stops. Very good thing to start learning on the scale first and then into your piece. Maybe there's some kind of a bow. Maybe there's nice sound and you don't have enough bow, a good bow connection at the frog or at the tip. Then I will look at my bow hand and look for help, perhaps on YouTube, what to do with the bow. You can look at some of my videos there, and so on. But then, when you're tired from working on the very hard spot, that's maybe when you can go to the easier one, when you can really pour your heart and soul into, so to speak, and work on some nice melodies. So I hope that is helpful. That is very fast, but here's our time. I'd like to know about the contact of the thumb on the bow. The contact of the thumb. Okay. The contact, I would imagine, of the thumb with the bow has to be the tip this part of the tip of the thumb, pretty much, on the side of your fingers. And that is because when you place your right hand on the bow, you place it first like this, then you bend your thumb and it goes approximately where the middle finger is. And that should be the area where the thumb grip is close to the frog. Now, some people do hold thumbs on the thumb grip too, so it's also possible to do it here. But most people hold the thumb between the thumb grip and the beginning of the frog right there. So you place it right here, and when we play, we always rotate our forearm because we need more sound at the tip especially, I think, passing the heavy part of the bow. So we move, and therefore your thumb rotates correspondingly. You have to do this in order to create the counter pressure to the index finger. Okay, so again, where my thumb fits, it fits right here, like right this. If you can see it there, I hope you do. Or like that. That's where it should fit. Okay. Next question. After a break of more than 20 years, I have started playing again this year. What a joy. I am now working on my vibrato and have also seen your video about it. I'm glad. I noticed that when I'm doing dry exercises, my left hand is very relaxed and it is easy to do a nice and soft relaxed vibrato. However, as soon as I engage the bow at the same time, my left hand gets tense and I am not able to stay as relaxed with the left. Why is this, and is there something I can do? That's an excellent question, by the way. Part of the answer lies in the fact that you have played violin before, and it's very possible, very likely, that when you played violin before, you had the built-in tension when you did your vibrato, no matter what movement you made. Just the sound of vibrato, just knowing that you were doing vibrato in the brain, had put this kind of coordination between your right arm and hand and your left hand. So it's most plausible. I would say it doesn't actually matter why it is. What matters is what to do with this. So one thing that I think is very useful is to, first of all, if you saw my exercises on vibrato, I would suggest that you go back from vibrato to the slightly sliding one. So that will be certainly away from whatever you were doing 20 years ago. And when you are in that slidey mode, then without the bow, but just pretending maybe the bow is here, like as if you're holding it, just try to see if you can move a little bit. By the way, it doesn't have to be as the bow moves. It can be somewhere nearby. And just a little bit, very short bursts of this moment and some kind of a little arm movement. What I'm trying to get across is that you want to see whether just a simple moving of your right arm in a different plane, because right arm always moves in a different plane than the left, will cause some tension in the left hand. If it does, you need to break through this. And how to do this again, you kind of need to separate yourself. You know, this is one thing and this is the other thing. And so you want to be as unobtrusive. Maybe you should start doing them both. Then maybe this one will become a little bit slower, or maybe this one, just experiment, or maybe this, and then eventually maybe move not upside down, but vertically. In other words, you want to see how much different coordination you can introduce between the hands, okay? So if that starts working, I would first graduate to the pencil and take a pencil here instead of bow and kind of slightly mimic the movement with the bow above the strings, or maybe below, also could be very helpful. Remember to stop your vibrato in between. Don't vibrate for too long, it will just get tired anyway by itself. And then with the bow, what you can do, you can actually, again, do somewhat like a nice vibrato, slidey vibrato, and then put the bow in the middle and don't move it. And just in this position, again, vibrate, and you will see most likely it will be fine. Then when you want to move, just move a little bit here, like that, reposition rather, and then again do. And then memorize how this feels, like you're staying right there. I'm pressing a little bit, you know, you hear the sound. So standing like that, okay, it feels like this, it's okay, I can do the same movement. And you can either press to the string or just rest there, or you can put the bow here. Okay, and do the same and then stop. So that should kind of get you sensitized, I guess, should be to the environment, so that it doesn't scare the left hand into the probably known before tension. You know, so just, yeah, I can do it right now, and I feel good about that. So hopefully that will get you on the right path. And let's see, there's one more question. The best way to learn accurate intonation on the violin, especially in the upper register of each string. The best way to learn accurate intonation. Well, first of all, accurate intonation starts in the first positions. Definitely. You have to make sure that you're actually clean in the first positions. How do we do it? We incessantly check with open strings. But what do we check with open strings? Only intervals that are perfect intervals. So do not go to the false methods, which, for instance, give me, and when I put the B, okay, so if I check that B with a D open, you will hear that it's very, very sharp. And it is, of course, it is sharp, but if you're playing separately, you will hear that it actually sounds good. If you have a D, however, your D will be the perfect interval with the D open string, and that is very clean D. I recommend making breaks between the notes and hearing the interval exactly. So back to the B. What do we do with that B? We check it with E open, and if that matches with E open, this is a very clean B if you are playing separate notes. However, if you're playing the double stop with a D string, of course you will have to pull it back, because this is very sharp, and we have to put it back here. So however, by itself, of course, it will be very flat. So, assuming that you have cleaned all your clean and perfect intervals in the first positions, and the same thing with unisons, here and so on. So now, if you go here in the higher positions, you will realize that some of the notes, you will have the perfect intervals with the upper strings in there. You know, for instance, if you go here, you have E, and you have A open, so you have your perfect fourth, it becomes, and here again, always ringing, it always rings with your open strings. Then D, another perfect fourth. Of course, D also can be checked with G open. And if your violin is in tune, which mine obviously isn't right now too much, then it's the same interval. So it's a clean, perfect interval. So then you have your D. And of course, it also harmonic. Harmonic sounds slightly flatter than your note, but it's very small difference. And of course, G is another octave with your G open. And that is an example of how, for instance, to be in this kind of high position. If you're, how to practice it? Well, you have to play, first of all, you have to play in those positions. I would recommend playing scales. And playing scales in one position, not the one that you shift back and forth, but the one you just stay. For instance, and play scale like that back and forth. And you can go then start from the first finger, and you go in upper positions, keys. You can also just train your A and E, because let's face it, if you're not professional virtuoso, you're not going to be playing on G and D strings that high up anyway. So you're going to mostly playing on E string and some of that on A. So practicing slowly, checking with open strings, making sure that your repeated notes, regardless of the finger number that you're using or on which string they're using, they're exactly matching one another. That's the way to practice intonation in the upper positions, just like you practice them in the lower position. Now, in terms of positioning of the thumb, that's a different story, but I think that will be altogether a different question. So I hope this answers your question for now. If you have any more, or you want some clarifications, please write and I'll try to answer them another time. Thank you. I'll see you again.